Welcome back to yet another installment of places that Alexa is debating if she should visit or not. What? I swear, over the last year of hanging out with y'all, my traveling bucket list has easily doubled in length. Question for you, what's the most haunted place you've ever visited? Let me know in the comments and let's see if I'm talking about it. I'll start off with an easy one, and that's Centralia, Pennsylvania. From the late 1800s to the 1960s, this place was a quaint but bustling town in Little Pennsylvania, thanks to its very prosperous coal mines. However, when a mine mysteriously caught fire in 1962, the flames began to spread underground via the interconnecting tunnels. Although the citizens were aware of the situation, they weren't truly troubled until two isolated incidents a couple years later. A gas station owner reporting abnormally high gasoline temperatures in his underground tanks in 1979, and a young boy nearly falling into a 150-foot deep sinkhole over in his backyard in 1981. After that, the town's population plummeted. This town has burned for about 50 years now. This mine certainly seems like a fiery lair of dastardly demons and spirits. What's more is the fire heats the groundwater to boiling temperatures, causing a lot of steam to rise. On a lot of days, this gives Centralia's landscape an unsettling, misty appearance. With only a couple of buildings left, it's a abandoned place. A lot of the residents are not there. I think there's only 4 left. So if you go to Centralia, it's a ghost town. This place has actually more people buried there than it has living residents, which is super unsettling if you ask me. So if you're driving around the town, you'll find 3 cemeteries: St. Ignatius, St. Peter and Paul Orthodox, and Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary. If you're gonna walk around the ruins of this modern day ghost town, it'll give you the feeling of supernatural forces working underfoot. And because of all this, there's been some stories that have come to light. Some are stories from visitors who left in fear after thinking they saw a person or a thing, heard odd sounds, and some folks just felt like they were being watched. Other people go so far as to say that this place is the gateway to hell. One group of visitors heard what sounded like a voice saying something inaudible from down below when they were visiting a cemetery. At first they were like, okay, maybe it's somebody else, and they're like, forget about it. Then they heard it again, a little more clearly, just a few words, and it sort of sounded like, leave this place. At that moment, the hill the group was standing on started steaming, more so than before, and it really stunk, like rotten eggs. It spooked the friends, so they made the decision to leave, and as they were heading back to their car, they heard it again. Not the same words and not clear, but something like, why? Why did you do that? What was even weirder is that it wasn't like somebody was yelling it out of the bushes. It was quiet, kind of closer. Nobody knew where it was coming from. It seems like most colleges and universities have at least a couple of ghost stories to tell, and Wichita State University in Kansas is no exception. Tales of mysterious sounds, lights, and figures are commonplace in the older buildings on campus. 2 buildings in particular come up when the campus ghost stories start getting told. Henry Gymnasium and Wilner Auditorium are part of the WSU lore about things that go bump in the night. I love that song from Scooby-Doo. The story of the ghost in Henrian tells of a maintenance worker who was electrocuted on the very job in the 1950s. Details kind of vary. Some say he hit a live wire with his bare head. Another version says that he was hit by lightning while mopping. It's said that his ghost appears in the building in the middle of the night and early in the morning. The auditorium, on the other hand, has gained a reputation for being very haunted. We've got all the usual suspects: flickering lights, doors closing on their own, disembodied voices, and the occasional apparition. A lot of folks have witnessed it. Mary Nelson, a program consultant for the library, says the ghost is likely that of George Wilner, the namesake of the building. She's like, he's probably friendly, just wants to make sure his building is taken care of. Which, I get it. Now also apparently Fisk Hall might be haunted. Since it's the oldest building on campus, it certainly has the history to be a likely place for a haunting. It's been used as a men's dormitory, an infirmary during the influenza situation, and the office space for a lot of different departments. Even investigators from the Wichita Paranormal Research Society picked up the possible presence of a ghostie. We didn't get a name, sadly. I know cemeteries are kind of low-hanging fruit when it comes to being haunted, but let me have this. The Bonaventure Cemetery in Savannah, Georgia is home to a couple of notable ghosties, and I just fell so in love with them today that they had to make my list. Located on the 17-mile-long Wilmington River, some 3 miles down from downtown Savannah, is this fascinatingly beautiful cemetery that has been described as a natural cathedral. Like, come on. You've got these stoic, tall, live oak trees that are just cloaked in Spanish moss. They're all lining the winding paths. It's such a beautifully haunting allure to the many elaborate and time-stained monuments that are throughout this location. To offset the grays and the gloominess are these vibrant azaleas and plenty of other flowers that are just bursting with color when they bloom in the spring and summer. The 100 acres of this special place have stirred the emotions of generations of visitors over quite a few years. But apparently you're gonna feel something stirring you the minute you approach the main gate. And not because of a bran muffin or coffee. A novel that subsequently became a major motion picture that was published in 1994 owes a lot to the cemetery and vice versa. Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil is a first-person account of life in the Old South, interwoven with a mystery that casts Savannah as its backdrop, and features the statue of a girl holding two small bowls, one in each hand on the front cover. Legend has it that the statue is haunted by the ghost of Lorraine Greenman, the little one who posed for the artist. Little Wendy, as the statue is also referred to, once stood sentinel over the Trostel family plot, but she became so idolized as a result of her newfound fame, and it wasn't even central to the book's plot, that the owners donated the statue to Savannah's Museum of Art to just avoid destruction and for safety. Another famous sculpture that has elicited some crazy stories or legends, depending on your point of view, is that of Gracie Watson, or as she is affectionately known, Little Gracie. This young one died of pneumonia and was memorialized in marble by artist John Waltz from nothing but a photograph. And for years, people have reported seeing a little one that fits her description playing around. The legend claims that she appears as a normal living one in a white dress who vanishes without a trace when you get too close. And to some, she still lives. Visitors leave toys for her to play with, especially around Christmas time, and if you move them or you take them away, she's gonna cry tears of human redness. So leave her toys alone. Let her play with them. What harm is it doing you? Alright, let's see if I pronounce this properly. Calcasieu Courthouse. I tried, folks, I really did. According to the local parish clerk of courts, the main part of the courthouse building was built in 1912. It is on the National Register of Historic Places, while an addition was tacked on in the mid-90s. A lot of folks believe that the courthouse is haunted, and that the individual whose ghost is doing that haunting is a convicted killer by the name of Toni Jo Henry. She was the only woman to be executed in the electric chair in Louisiana history, unless somebody forgot to put a name down, and it just so happens that the flip of the switch that led to her death happened here. Allow me to give you some context on her. For starters, she didn't really have an easy start in life. Her mother died when she was young, prompting her father to remarry, and Toni was not a fan of the new living arrangement, wanted to go live with an aunt. Why? Well, her dad wasn't great. He hurt her, prompting her to just run away instead. She fell into a world of crime, substances, and intercourse work. She was working at a brothel when she met a man named Claude Cowboy Henry. According to the local Gazette, Henry was a former boxer who, after leaving the ring, found himself living a life of crime. The two fell in love, and the cowboy seems to have treated Toni well. She was in the clutches of substance addiction when they met, but upon marrying, they were like, let's move to California. Let's try and kick that. However, they decided to go back to Texas for a minute, and Cowboy was arrested for a killing that he had committed before the couple had married. And he received a 50-year sentence for his crime. Toni Jo was still madly in love and was like, let's figure out how to get you out of jail. She found herself an accomplice for this plot, a man named Harold Burks, who went by Archie. Burks had served time in the same prison that the cowboy was incarcerated in. And Toni was like, let's use that knowledge. The first step? Let's rob a bank. Because why not? Toni and Burks encountered a man named Joseph P. Calloway, who was delivering a car and was like, okay, I'll give you a ride. According to the local Gazette, they were like, we're gonna hijack this car and use it as a getaway vehicle. But sadly, they killed Calloway. After Toni's arrest, the heinous nature of her crimes, coupled with her good looks and the fact that the death penalty was on the table, her trial became a media sensation. She was found guilty, sentenced to death, which was upheld after several appeals. She was executed in the electric chair on November 28th of 1942. And nowadays, well, her ghost is just hanging around the courthouse. According to various sources, there have been reports of unexplainable screams, electrical mishaps, and the smell of cheap perfume. But there's another odor sometimes reported at the courthouse that is far more disturbing and fitting to the story and death of Toni Jo Henry, the unexplainable smell of burning hair. Alrighty folks, we're gonna end today with the Dock Street Theater in Charleston, South Carolina. This theater, which is not located on Dock Street, but on Church Street, is pretty neat. One quirky fact is that at one time it was actually a hotel. It is now technically the last surviving hotel. Guests of the theater have claimed to see spirits roaming about. We've got sightings of ghostly apparitions in the rafters, apparitions on the stage, and a lot of folks are like, were they failed actors? Were they admirers of the theater? Was there something more tragic? Well, we know there's been a lot of sightings, but there's two particular spirits that have been seen more than any of the others. One of them is believed to be Junius Brutus Booth, the father of the infamous presidential assassin. No one's really sure why his ghost is haunting the theater, because aside from performing there with his theater troupe, and apparently he tried to kill the manager of the hotel, he doesn't have any other strong ties to the building. But the most frequently spotted ghost at this lovely theater is Nettie, who lived in Charleston during the 1800s and could usually be found at the Planters Hotel. She wasn't a guest or a member of the staff, she was a bit of a freelancer. What was her occupation? The world's oldest profession. Poor thing was killed by a bolt of lightning, leading to a sudden and unexpected death, leaving her with unfinished business that I guess nobody's been able to help her with yet. The ghost of Nettie can be seen gliding around aimlessly throughout the entire theater. Some of those who have caught a glimpse of her claim that she was wearing a tattered yet vibrantly colored red dress. How fitting. And that's it for me once again, folks. I've been Alexa, your resident ooky spooky girly. And hey, if you felt like I forgot a notable place today, be sure to check out our other videos, and I'll see y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.